beloved castle. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Next speaker would be Councillor Mahavik.
Yes, thank you. First, I'd like to request that a member of this auspicious body move the following motion: request that the matter be deferred for 1 or 2 months to allow for a public meeting to gather public input on the staff report. That would, yes, delay it for a couple of months, but you would get important public input into this, and I think that that's very important. Why? Well, as Councillor Matlow and some of the deputants have said, it is an iconic building. It is the most important heritage asset that we have as citizens, residents of the City of Toronto. It is. We've also been around the block on this process a few times, at least 2 or 3 times just in the last couple of terms of council. We need to get this right, and the nuances matter, and the sequencing of how we make decisions matter. Do you put the board in place now? Do you put it in place later? I happen to think that it is important to follow what a 2-year process of very good folks came up with, and their conclusion was put a board in that represents the multiple stakeholders that have a role in Casa Loma. And those are heritage experts, they're business experts, they're tourism experts, they're local community people, they're event managers. You need all those stakeholders in as early, we need all those stakeholders in as soon as possible. We should not get the plan in and then put them on board. They should be engaged now, and there are competent people out there, if we did a proactive search through a human resource firm, to get those folks to help us manage that process through. I think that there are some points. We don't want a free-for-all, see what ideas are out there. There are some things, some benchmarks that are non-negotiable. The heritage pieces are non-negotiable. The need to invest in the state of good repair is non-negotiable. The need to have community input and a community sense of the place, that has come out loud and clear at every single consultation that has been. So if you get a proponent that says winner take all, and you might have the whole thing under your purview as a single proponent, that might not work. That's not what the residents in their consultations have been telling us. A key thing to understand that I heard from the last set of consultations, Mr. Chair, is that it is not, Casa Loma is not a building. It's a campus. It's actually 4 or 5 different businesses that are, if you want to use that term, businesses that run on that campus. Yes, there is the big building. Yes, there is the heritage piece. But there's also a hunting lodge, which can function in a very different way than the building beside it, which is the potting shed, which could be used for some urban agriculture location, which is very different than the building next to it, which is the stables, which could house a very interesting arts organization with a little bit of investment. Some of those pieces can be a function of good business planning, and you will get a return on investment. Some of them will have to be a function of philanthropic support. Sending it out for a tender, well, maybe some philanthropist will come forward with a not-for-profit that will do fundraising, but probably not. Probably not. You need a board in place now to say, these are the pieces that we think can make money and that can be reinvested into Casa Loma, but these are the pieces where we think that a philanthropist or charitable donations will be necessary to make something happen. Right now, it's just too singular, and the nuances need to be captured. Mr. Chair, my hope is that between that first, that my motion gets passed, that we hear from the community. Maybe I'm wrong in my thesis, but I suspect that I'm right, that the community will want to know who the governors of this important asset are. Once they know that, then they can work with staff, our staff, to say, okay, these are the pieces that we think are subject to an RFP, and we should go out with an RFP, and these are the pieces that we want to hold back for now and maybe use a different kind of approach. I think opening it all up at the beginning, you could have a situation where you have
15
one
seconds,
proponent, and this is my last point, you'll have one proponent that basically says, you know what, I'm going to focus on the main building, the so-called castle. It's not a castle, but the so-called castle. And I'll let the other places run down because, you know what, they don't make money for me. And that would be a big tragedy for us as a city. This is an opportunity to get it right. Let's get it right.
Thanks, Councillor. Other speakers from not committee members? Any other speakers not on the committee? Okay, into the committee. Speakers on the committee, care to speak? Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. There were two entrepreneurial initiatives that were badly mishandled in the previous administration. One was the a la carte program, which was a disaster from the very beginning because it had the fingerprints of the city all over it. The second was the initiative that was taken by this council to inject the castle with an entrepreneurial drive and panache. And I remember that debate very clearly. And the error that we made there, frankly, was that we left the decision-making with respect to that partnership to the new board. And they made the wrong decision. In the end, we had to come back in, the mayor had to dismiss the Kiwanis for incompetency and asked us as a city to revisit this issue all over again. And I hope this time, Mr. Deputy Mayor, we get it right, that we get an entrepreneur as a partner that's worthy of that designation. The one that was chosen wasn't. In fact, we left the castle in the hands of the Kiwanis and its incompetent administration. I want to make sure that we cast, as the city manager indicated, as wide a net as possible to see what's out there. Attract every successful entrepreneur that's got the capital and the brains, the administrative capacity, and the entrepreneurial and entertainment drive, the excitement that castle needs. And I don't want to see our search for that type of business constrained in any way. If we have to cut and snip the suit, then let's do that later, but not at this time. Let's get on with this business, and this time, let's get it right.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Ainsley.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. I guess I'm going to take a bit of a different tack than Councillor Kelly. I agree that things have to change. You know, you look at the financial performance sheet here, where on whatever page it is, I think, and it says, you know, over the past 32 years, the Kiwanis collected $6.1 million in management fees from the City of Toronto. The City of Toronto itself collected over $20 million from Castle Loma operations in property taxes. And, you know, to me, those are very telling numbers. And I'm going to disagree on one level with Councillor Kelly. I wouldn't call the Kiwanis an incompetent group. I think that we as city councillors, when they were awarded the contract, or re-awarded the contract a few years ago, I think we really assumed a lot from a volunteer organization that they were going to have the wherewithal to run a building or a series or a number of buildings in size and magnitude as Castle Loma, and, you know, not only size, but age, going back to the 1920s. I think that was a huge hurdle for them to overcome. And City Council, they bid on it, they asked for it, and I don't know if we did enough due diligence, but we gave it to them. At this point in time, though, I'm going to thank Councillor Matlow and Councillor Mahavik for the work they're doing. This is building Castle Lomas in their respective areas. It has a huge impact on their respective areas and the residents. And I want to thank staff for putting this process in place. I think that, we're going down the right road with this. We're engaging a number of different experts from heritage conservation, facilities, city staff to find the proper use for this building. Because I'll tell you, it's certainly not in the state that I would expect to see a building or a number of buildings that are owned by the City of Toronto, especially one as old as Casa Loma and one that's played such a significant part of our city's history. I know that I regularly go through Casa Loma with our kids, with our 3 children, and you can see the deterioration of it over even the past 5 to 6 years. And as Councillor Matlow pointed out, you go into one area, the gift shop, in December, you can put a t-shirt and shorts on, it's so hot in there, and be very comfortable. Then you go into another part of it, and you're begging for the winter jacket that you left at the front door. And you go into other parts of it, the master bedroom, Henry Pellet's master bedroom, the stain is so worn on the floor, it's actually a pathway in the floor. And we're expecting tourists to come in there and look around, spend money, spend their day there, and then we turn around and say, why aren't they coming back? Well, nobody wants to go down to back to a rundown facility that's falling apart. One of the funniest experiences I had was a few years ago. Our 12-year-old son, who would have been 9 at the time, we were in Casa Loma the day before. I was at a community event, and Mayor David Miller was there. And I said to the mayor, we were in Casa Loma yesterday, and we were talking about how run down it was or how bad it was getting. And my son pulled a rock out of his hand, and he says, look, here's a piece of Casa Loma, Mr. Mayor. And Mayor Miller said, where did you get that? He says, well, I was outside. We were walking out. He says, I hit the wall with my glove, and it fell off the wall, so I brought it home with me. Right? So, it's getting that bad. It was getting that bad that you could walk out the front door and take a piece of Casa Loma home with you as a souvenir. So, I look at this report, I look at the numbers that are spent on it, you look at the condition of the inside and the outside of the building, things definitely need to change. I think we need to be looking at this building with a fresh lens, and I think that that's what this report is achieving, and I'll be supporting the recommendations and moving them. I don't know if anybody's moved them yet. And thanks, staff, again, and let's move forward and get on with this.
Thank you, Councillor.